Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. Welcome to you who are watching on Facebook and to those of you who are listening on WVON 1690 AM. This is Meeting the Moment. My name is Lorie Smith, and Meeting the Moment is powered by the Chicago Community Trust. Welcome and good morning, good afternoon, rather. This show was created with one purpose: to support nonprofit leaders across the Chicagoland area with clarity and communication strategies needed to navigate times like these with confidence. Right now, organizations across our city are being asked to make decisions in real time, respond to shifting narratives, and serve communities that are also navigating uncertainty. So each week, we're going to bring together voices from across the nonprofit sector, leaders, practitioners, partners, and have honest conversations about what's happening and how we can move forward. And today's conversation begins at the policy level. And before I introduce that segment, I want to encourage you guys to like and share the show. Be sure to call in at 773-591-1690. I have some amazing guests today who will be talking about navigating uncertainty in the non-for-profit space. Earlier, we did speak with Congresswoman Robin Kelly about how nonprofits can better position themselves to be heard and how they can maintain trust and what they should be preparing next. So let's take a listen to Congresswoman Robin Kelly. I'm joined today by Congresswoman Robin Kelly, who has been deeply connected to violence prevention work in Illinois, including leadership around the Illinois Council on Women and Girls and advocacy tied to community-based anti-violent initiatives, often in partnership with organizations that are funded through state violence prevention efforts. Congresswoman Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on Meeting the Moment. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you taking out the time. Congresswoman Kelly, how can nonprofits better position themselves to be heard and supported at the policy level, especially in uncertain times as these?
Sure. Well, it's clear that the Trump administration does not care for nonprofits that have served, in particular, historically marginalized communities. And, from day one, he made it clear that DEI is the enemy, but we know that DEI means all of us. So he's really attacking all of us. But this leads to that nonprofits have to be creative in their funding requests. And there's some wording that, they're going to have to change. Like you can't use diversity, equity, and inclusion because the DEI police will come after you. So in applying for grants and funding, nonprofits have to be creative and find different ways to express what they want to get accomplished. And it also, like what I do in my district, I work with the nonprofits and we'll look at, we can't write the grant for you, but we can look at creative ways for the grant to be written. We can take you to the water, we just can't help you drink it.
Right.
But, we're there to help. We've helped many people applying for grants. And so seeking help from your congressional office is definitely something that I would recommend.
Yeah, to that point, Congresswoman, how should organizations, besides just financial shoring up, how should organizations think about sustainability when funding streams feel uncertain or inconsistent as they do right now?
Sure. Well, also, there's a federal government, but there's a state, there's a county, and even locally, people are doing things. And then also there are the foundations. So depending on, what topics the foundation is interested in, nonprofits should look that way also.
Since you've worked so closely with the anti-violence efforts and community-based organizations, what have you seen firsthand about the role nonprofits play when the system falls short?
Oh, I mean, nonprofits play such an important role, and oftentimes, especially the smaller nonprofits, they're on the ground working with the actual people. Sometimes the bigger organizations, they're not as close to the ground. As we say, the people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And they have found a way to survive, despite funding. And even when Democrats were in charge, when we are in charge again, we can't go back to business as usual. We even have to increase funding and do more. So there's more, especially prevention, because really that's the cheapest way out of a problem to prevent it from the first place.
Right. And what shifts looking ahead do you see coming that nonprofits should be preparing themselves for now, even if they can't fully see that path yet?
You know, we didn't last year, but it's back this year, but community money. And what we found, they cut out healthcare, they cut out culture, they cut out education. But what we found is that even if it's a nonprofit, if it's something around brick and mortar, or, you want to expand in that way. So maybe you could serve more people, like things like that. Right. I've seen some success, in that way, like one of the food pantries I work, they could expand their, food pantry. So there's other ways, I guess, to skin a cat. And I think that, in the violence realm, Donald Trump has taken money from, violence prevention programs. Just some agencies in Chicago lost around $16 million. So, agencies need to be prepared that unless something changes politically sooner than later, that is going to continue. But I also think telling the stories, and people that no matter where you live, you should be telling the stories. In other words, no matter if your representation is more blue, purple, or red, they need to hear the stories too. People need to speak up. People need to contact their representatives, and they need to tell the stories of how not getting the money is affecting the community. It hurts morally, it hurts economically, it hurts in so many ways.
For nonprofit leaders who might feel disconnected from the policy conversations, what do you feel is the most effective way for them to engage and advocate without feeling overwhelmed by the system?
Well, it's hard. I know this is an overwhelming time,
but
I do think, staying connected with like groups, staying connected to the people that represent you, looking at how are other organizations, how have they been successful and sustain themselves. I know this is terrible now, but there's been people.
There's people's survival.
Yeah.
Really.
That was Congresswoman Robin Kelly talking about the policy level of navigating uncertainty and how NPOs can better position themselves in the policy level for their missions and initiatives to be heard and supported. Joining me in the studio now is Tanisha Peoples of the Roots Initiative. Welcome, Tanisha.
Thank you so much for having me.
So for those who are not familiar with you and your work, tell them who Roots Initiative is and what your mission is.
So, Lorie, I can go all in the weeds, but the Roots Initiative, essentially, without getting into the wonky language of the mission on our website, but we are preparing our young Black kids to take the baton and run the race for liberation. Mm-hmm. And I would say that we are unique from other youth leadership development nonprofits, and we focus on 3 core areas. And the first area is cultural identity awareness. Mm-hmm. Meaning our young people first need to know who they are, right? And they need to know our history. It's critically important, especially in this time where there's so much erasure happening. So they need to know the history to understand the sacrifices and the strategy, right? So we're not recreating the wheel. The second piece is social emotional wellness. The trauma that we've endured as a community has a huge burden on how we see ourselves and how we move through the world in power. And so we really have to get to the root of how trauma has affected us as a community and how we conquer that through healing.
So,
go ahead.
Go right ahead.
And then the third piece is collective power.
Yeah.
We see that our movements have been co-opted, all the things by, people that look like us, people that don't look like us. And we need to understand how to move as a collective towards shared goals. Mm-hmm. And we can't do this alone. Yeah. I've come to understand that as an activist and as an organizer for many years, trying to carry the weight by ourselves is unsustainable and impossible. And so how do we get our community on one accord to move together towards, again, those shared goals that will ultimately make all of us better, not just the betterment of one person or one group. Yeah. So those are kind of our 3 core areas that we focus on really intentionally and explicitly grounding our Black youth in these spaces.
Yeah, we're talking about navigating uncertainty. How is that showing up in the work that you do now?
It's tough. So again, I'm a nonprofit leader. I'm a CEO of an organization. It's my responsibility to keep raising this money to sustain our organization. and to eradicate barriers that youth face, or families in low income communities face in accessing these services. All of our programming is completely free. So there's that part of it, and there's also the part of making sure that my team gets paid, we can hire more people to scale, I get paid, all the things. So to be completely honest, there was a lot of support behind my organization when we first started with 3 years old. Not saying that support doesn't exist, but obviously with the landscape and the attacks on DEI, the pool of opportunity is shortened in terms of resources available.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially you have a lot of organizations like mine fighting for the same resources, and it's gotten tough. So we have to be creative, we have to be innovative, all the things to make sure that we survive and thrive, and what that looks like strategically.
So how do you communicate with that challenge? How do you communicate with your community in moments like this, with your staff in moments like this, while this uncertainty is still unfolding?
So I'm telling my staff, look, we have to be very mindful about how we spend money, down to the snacks for programming. I ain't gonna put them on blast, but one of my team members, be in the office eating the chips. Hey, look, that costs money. We got to be mindful of that. Not trying to be stingy or anything like that, but again, we have to fundraise for all of these things. I'm really trying to push this message to community, like, we need y'all. We need the village rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
As nonprofit leaders, we talk a lot about the disinvestment, the lack of resources, and all the things. And I think that one resource that we really neglect to utilize is time. We're trying to get adults to show up for our kids in meaningful ways, because there's all these research studies, money that have been poured into these research studies trying to figure out, quote unquote, what's wrong with Black kids. And at the end of the day, the beginning and the end of the day, all our Black kids need is the same things that we needed when we were growing up: love, support, somebody to champion them, somebody to show up consistently. And that's what we need from our adults in the community. So I'm trying to tap into the resources and the talents of our communities to support our kids. And it's small donations at a time. If you donate $25 a month, that can go a long way. That supports our kids and our programming, us to be able to take them on trips that they don't pay for, snacks, stipends, all the things. So really tapping into community is important, especially in this time where we are facing a resource crisis externally. And we have to be there for each other.
So earlier, we heard the interview that I did with Congresswoman Robin Kelly about the ways that NPOs can position themselves at the policy level. What are some of the things that not only you took away from the interview, but what are some of the ways that you have had to reposition yourself on a policy level so that your mission can be supported and heard?
Well, I think having those conversations is crucial, right? How we build alliances with elected officials so that we can push these policies forward that trickle down to the grassroots level. Because we see things happen at grass tops that don't necessarily trickle down to the grassroots level. So having those consistent conversations, again, about how we move forward together is important. Being aware of what's happening is also important. We like to shy away from things that we maybe feel ignorant to, don't understand, whatever the case may be. We have to really pay attention to what's happening in the world so that we can, again, be strategic in navigating that. But most importantly, that collective power and force is important. We have to rise up against these policies that are not only restricting us as a community, but oppressing us. And so where there's maybe apathy, where there's maybe complacency, whatever the case may be, we got to get out of that. And we have to come together as a community and start having real conversations about how we move forward in a political space, understanding the policy, and then move forward to, again, put our elected officials in office and make our voices heard. So those are kind of three things that I can think of off the top of my head, how we navigate as nonprofits to get that support to move forward in the future.
And as a leader dealing with this uncertain time, what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated to continue this work?
You know what? Purpose. And don't get me wrong, this is I used to think of this work as a toxic relationship, right? Like it's hard, man. Like I always tell people, I didn't put in my high school yearbook that I wanted to be a nonprofit leader, that I want to be an activist and all the things. And I've come to realize that this is my purpose. And if I want to see the liberation for our community that I dream of, the liberation that we've seen before, in different ways, I have to keep pushing. And most importantly, our kids. There's so many assaults on our kids, so many judgments on our kids, all the things. And all I see is brilliance and genius and creativity. And I truly believe that even though, this has been said many times and it sounds cliche, that they are the future. They are the only ones that are going to quote unquote save us. So really above all is our kids. Yeah.
Guys, the phone lines are open 773 591 1690 773 591 1690. I'm talking with Tanisha Peoples of the Roots Initiative, who said that it's the purpose of the mission that keeps her going. And it is that same purpose that keep non-for-profits across the Chicagoland area going, doing the work every day, meeting needs, building trust, and creating real impact. And in this next segment, we call The Doers. We're going to have Candace McCollum speak with one of the organizations that's doing work on the ground in the community. Meeting the Moment is proud to present The Doers, a special feature shining a light on one of Chicagoland's premier nonprofit organizations. They lead with purpose and deliver real impact where it matters most. Now, meet this week's doer. Meeting the Moment is proud to present The Doers, a special feature shining a light on one of Chicagoland's premier nonprofit organizations. They lead with purpose and deliver real impact where it matters most. Now, meet this week's doer.
I'm Candace McCollum. Good afternoon. I am with Sharita Ellens. How are you?
I am well. Thanks for having me on, Candace.
Absolutely. For those just hearing about Women Employed for the first time, what is the heart of your mission and who are you fighting for every day?
So Women Employed has been around since 1973. And our mission is to increase the economic mobility of women and remove barriers to economic equity. And right now, our focus is growing the economic power of women in Illinois with the focus on the women who are facing the most disparities. And data tells us that that is women that are currently in low wage roles, Black and Latinx women. So that is who we center in our work at the moment.
Can you talk about women's workers' rights?
There's a lot of things, especially for Black women and Latinx women and women that are in these low wage roles. There is absolutely a fear of losing your job. Most of us can't afford to lose our jobs because we're paycheck to paycheck or not even paycheck to paycheck and can't afford to suffer retaliation. However, there are retaliation laws and we're so busy working that we don't pay attention to what our rights are. And many people don't know that we have laws on the books that's like no salary history that we passed in 2019 that bars employers from asking about your previous salary when you are interviewing for a new job, or that the recent salary transparency that went into effect last year in 2025 that requires all employers to list the salary range on their job requisitions and the benefits that come with it so that you don't have to worry about negotiating. There is an Equal Pay Act. We have paid leave for all workers right now to make sure that everybody, no matter where you work, has access to at least 5 paid days off for any reason in the state of Illinois, which also passed last year.
So how would you say women who do feel stuck or underpaid, overlooked, what are ways that they could advocate for themselves?
The best way to advocate for yourself is, one, know your value and know your worth and be confident in your ability to articulate your value. The second thing is to arm yourself with knowledge. You can go to our website, and there are other websites where we have a Know Your Rights section so that you can understand what your rights are. And then you're never stuck. There are pathways that you can take advantage of that will allow you to go back and get different credentials and or degrees or certificates that will give you the mobility that you need to move from, jobs that may just be helping you make ends meet to move into more livable wages or wages that you can sustain your family on.
Can you talk about a recent win or victory that made you pause and say, wow, this is why we do this?
So 2 years ago, we helped to pass an ordinance in the city of Chicago that would phase out the sub-minimum tip wage over a 5-year period. So there is a group of people, and mainly restaurant workers, but there are a lot of industries considered tip wages, and they don't make minimum wage because they have, in Illinois, for these individuals, the employer only has to pay 60% of minimum wage, and the rest of the wages are meant to be made up in tips. And so, most of us, when we think of tips, we think that we're tipping someone, right, for a service they provide, and that's on top of their wages. But for these workers, it's not on top, it's actually making up their wages. And so we successfully passed in City Council in 2024 an ordinance that would, over 5 years, phase out this sub-minimum tip wage to get these workers just the minimum wage.
Right.
City Council, at the last City Council meeting, passed a vote to pause the phasing out of the sub-minimum tip wages, meaning that the wages will pause as to where they are right now, and the next increase that was anticipated, I believe in July, will not happen. Yesterday, the mayor vetoed the vote of City Council, and what we need folks to do now is to call their aldermen, because what we want to make sure is that there are not enough votes to override the mayor's veto.
How can they, contact you? How can they get involved? Because this is very important.
We are at Women Employed on every single platform. So our website is womenemployed.org. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Women Employed. And we do have a section on our website around Know Your Rights. You can sign up for action alerts. You can also sign up for our newsletter as well to make sure that you can stay abreast. And the most important thing is to make sure that you're knowledgeable and not just keep the knowledge for yourself, pass it on to somebody else.
You got to spread the word. Well, Sharita Ellens, thank you for joining me on this Saturday afternoon from Women Employed. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, and continue to do great work in your community. I'm Candace McCollum, and this is The Doers.
Congratulations and thank you for your commitment to public service. Your organization keeps Chicagoland in motion because doers don't wait, they work. To find out more about this week's feature, visit WVON.com/meeting the moment, powered by the Chicago Community Trust.
Million.
We're back.
That's 150 million that's didn't like them.
Lord Jesus. We are back. Thank you so much, Candace McCollum. And we celebrate and appreciate the works that Women Employed are doing throughout the Chicagoland area. We are joined by Carl West. He is no stranger to the WVON family. He is the chairman of Black United Fund of Illinois and CEO of MG Media. Welcome back.
Hey, what's up?
Yep. So for those who do not know you, I can't imagine who that would be at this point. But for those who do not know you and may not be familiar with what you do, introduce yourself to the listening audience.
As I was stating to you about that whole idea of who don't know you, there's a whole lot of folks that don't know me. There's a whole lot of folks that probably wish they didn't know me. There's a whole lot of folks who never wants to know me. That's the reality of life for all of us, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And so you just don't, what you don't know, you don't know.
True. That's
and
true.
what you don't know can't hurt you.
Yeah.
You just hope that the cats who know you support you and love you and give you a pathway towards progress.
That's the truth.
And
that's
the ones
the truth.
that don't, just stay out of the way.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
You sound like Matt McGill.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's who Carl West is.
Yeah.
Stay out of my way.
We were talking while the segment was playing. Carl, when you look at this moment, what stands out to you about the challenges that these MPOs are facing?
The challenges are greater today than they were just say yesterday, for instance. And you can take yesterday as far back as you want to. And that's true. But the challenges have always been there. We've never not had a challenge as a people facing us every day. We walk out our front door to try to use the word again, progress, find our liberation and our freedom. It's always. But now when you have individuals who create organizations that are strictly meant to do good in the hood, that's not a favorable thing to the puppet master, as we said in the commercial. Yeah. The puppet master doesn't want to see a set of people have liberation and complete freedom, whatever that looks like. Yeah. Because we've never really known it completely, even though we're not shackled, but there's a certain freedom that we just don't have. Yeah. That we wish we did. And we don't even wish we did because we don't even know what it looks like. So
yeah, that part. That's true.
What it looks like.
That's true.
And so it's tough. It's tough. And I've seen it because in my organization, the Black United Fund, well, we're an affiliate. We are, so that means that we are able to be conduits for non-for-profits. That means we are fiscal agents for at least 20 non-for-profits from in the city, ranging from Rockford all the way down state.
Nice.
And so we see it because part of our role as their fiscal agent is to help them, one, manage their organization, two, help them raise funds, and three, contribute funds to them to help them continue in their organization, primarily when they find themselves up against a challenge. And we do that through payroll deduction. So we are only only two organizations in Chicago that can do payroll deductions. United Way and the Black United Fund of Illinois.
Wow.
And we are that way because the founders, Henry English and the founding board members, that was their mission when they first launched it, was to go up against United Way, who was taking all of the black dollars from our city, state employees, whatever, who gave them $1 a week, $1 every salary to manage their money. United Way wasn't giving that money back to the community as promised. Fought them, hard battle, won the right to be an affiliate 40 years ago this year. And so this is what gives us some advantage in terms of we don't have to be as aggressive in fundraising because we have this mechanism that was set in place. So we always give our founders and the board members great credit because they created what we call a business model that will allow us to sustain ourselves, because we also, what people don't know is, we had an organization that founded the Safe Passage program.
Right. That's right.
And so we're able to, and because of that, the agreement was we get a big chunk of that contract because we got 5 communities that we service in our Safe Passage program. So we see it because we are constantly, if you're an affiliate of ours, we give them money. We got some tough times, can't meet payroll.
Yeah.
And we dip into that fund from the payroll deduction and we help them survive. But here's what we know. It's a great gesture because it's honest and real, but we also know, because as a fiscal agent, we know where all their money is coming from. So we can see that there's an end game. We can't keep pouring into an organization where there's no end game.
Right.
Because that's just throwing money out the window.
Right.
We know that they got money coming in at some point, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now. We can manage that because we are still a not-for-profit, still a business.
Right.
Still in business to be in business, to service the people or the things that you service.
Yep. Yeah. We talked with Congresswoman Robin Kelly earlier, and you heard Tanisha earlier talking about some of the challenges on the policy level with non-for-profit organizations. How do you interpret that from your lens, specifically from that Buffy lens? That's
that hidden hand of power. That's that hidden hand of power, creating policies to stifle communities that service in their own communities. Anytime you can do that, that's not a good look. So, and they do it through policy. Policy is the one way they can do it because now it's legal. We put these things in place. We change these rules. We move the goalposts so that you guys will have a much difficult time servicing your own community and moving them forward, which is what the organizations are designed to do, right? And so policy is everything.
Yes.
It's everything. Because, again, if you're not in accordance with that, you either shut down or you fall down and you can't get back up.
As we discussed while the segment was playing, do you think that's the plan? Is it the plan that we keep moving the goalposts and that you either get so exhausted that you give up the fight, or you get so overstimulated that you start making mistakes? Do you think that's the plan?
I'm gonna say this, and I know young lady wants to share.
Yeah,
I believe that. I said I don't want to believe it is, but I know it is. I just don't want to believe it is as detrimental today as it was 50 years ago. But sometimes I look around and say, God, maybe it is. And then again, it depends on policy. Again, there is a policy man sitting in DC that policy that proclamation that he states on air, live and indirect, people somewhere moving that policy down to the local level to organization. So yeah, what you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I'm thinking about, again, as I stated earlier, we're a young nonprofit. There are a lot of things that I didn't know, right? It's certainly a business. And as an example, we certified with the Secretary of State. I didn't know that we had to be in compliance with Kwame Raoul's office, right? And so for a year, I had to get an accountant that was familiar with the process, get us up to compliance so that we don't lose any ability to, run our organization
and raise funds.
right.
Right.
And so that red tape and that policy that's in place is certainly there to trip us up so that we aren't doing the work. And I think too, that's why you see a lot of organizations that aren't in compliance, right? It's like, we just go get out here, we gonna do these events, we gonna do these, we gonna host at churches or whatever, because it is too difficult to meet all of these demands or meet these policy demands as one person just trying to do the work on the ground. So it's certainly there in place, and it's increased with anti-DEI. I don't even know if it's policy per se, but anti-DEI rhetoric around the country for an organization like mine, that on the website, it says we explicitly serve Black students. And so that's another layer of it. If you have a lawyer or some, lobbyist group coming at you saying that we're going to sue you because your organization now has practices DEI language or holds space for a certain group. So that's another layer of it. So where it's like, we don't want to believe that there's this puppet master or boogeyman in the dark. There certainly is, and it's growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why it's our job to keep pushing and combat that.
It's some harsh realities that every organization, even ours, have to face, especially from a policy level, because there's only so long you can fight and not have victories and not have wins as a small organization, a mid-sized organization, even a big organization. It may take them a longer time. The bigger you are, the longer it takes for you to fall, of course. And the smaller you are, you hit the ground quicker. Right. But still in all, hitting the ground is what you're going to do if you don't comply.
Yeah.
And those are some tough things. What do? You do the best you can, hire who you got to hire. But is that sustainable over a long period of time?
Right.
That's what any fight is about.
Right.
Can you go to distance with me? If I'm battling you, we in the ring fighting, me the policy person giving you these policies to adhere to, and you are the person who's taking these blows and trying to defend us off. How many rounds can you go with us?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the question. And what I said, and what we've been saying for quite a while, and I said my executive director, Carolyn Day, I think she wants to call in here. I don't know if we're taking calls or not.
We're definitely taking calls. 773-591-1690, guys. Sel, I see you on the line.
Yep, she got it. And we made some, again, harsh realities. And that is that some organizations, because there are a lot of organizations, especially in the violence prevention space, right? There's a whole lot of them. Yeah. Some of y'all got to sit down and be for real about how you care about this mission and collaborate and join forces together. Somebody got to take down the names or figure out a way to add the names, add one letter to your name and your letter to your name, and come up with a overall name.
Yes.
But it's been to that point. It's going to get to that point if things don't change. And we got about 3 more years to see how they're going to change, at least on that federal level with the federal dollars that comes down to the state and to the city. People are going to have to make some decisions on how they collaborate and come together. And it's going to be some tough choices. And we all know in choices there are casualties. Some folks ain't going to make it.
And if I can add this, especially in a city like Chicago is a city where there are so many cooks in the kitchen. Unfortunately, I ain't trying to be messy.
That's
real.
That's well said.
And the other piece is again, I've been in the advocacy space for a long time in education. Advocacy and activism have become popularized to where it's become activism. I've been talking about activism for a long time, and people want to see this radicalism of, I'm on the front lines and I'm fighting this and I'm fighting that. And those are the people, a couple of years ago who were getting the money and the limelight, right? And so there's this activism in place where there was a lot of funding poured into these public acts, and people have gotten used to that as a stream of income. And so that makes me, some people like, well, I ain't trying to share that space. I ain't trying to share that money. And to Carl's point, if we truly care about community, we have to figure out a way to consolidate and
To share that
collaborate
money.
and work
Yes,
together.
yes,
We have to.
yes,
It's a must.
we
Yeah.
have to. Let's go to the phone line. Sel, I see you on the line. What's on your mind? Welcome to WVON.
Really enjoying this. I want to acknowledge the young lady who was a part of the Root program.
Yes, Tanisha.
I thoroughly enjoyed her explanation of it and the philosophy behind it. Your forward thrust has got to be rooted in your understanding of who you are.
Absolutely.
First of all, starting with your spirituality. And as you talked about the traumas, I would like to come and share with you my position, the traumas young folk experience as a result of living in unkept, unsafe, healthy. It's all about, if nothing else, giving them a clean place to grow up in, which affects everything that they are capable of being, from the self-respect, self-esteem, and security.
Absolutely.
And longevity, which has been documented as contributing to how long you live. Your environment has that type of an influence on your existence.
That's true. Thank you so much for the call, Sel. You want to speak to that, Tanisha?
Yeah, and again, I just want to distinguish how, because I didn't want to get out here and do the same thing that other organizations was doing. It's not to shade them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the work that we do comes from our own lived experience, and really diving into our history and who I am as a person, unmasking, right? Because this world will try to tell us who we are as soon as we were born. We see that in the media, we see that in our communities. If you I grew up in Inglewood. You can get up every day. Well, let me say my story. I grew up in Inglewood, went to some of the best performing schools in the city, 2-parent household, family, all the things. But if you walk outside your community every day and you see blight and crime and all the things, that impresses on you and really gives you a sense of self-worth. That says to you, I'm not worth anything because this is where I live and this is how people feel about my community and what should be invested in my community when you don't have access to these resources. And so really knowing who we are and what we deserve and what we're capable of is important in how we show up in leadership and in power. And so, we can teach civics, all the things, and we can do service learning projects. But if our kids don't know who they are and whose they are, they won't make it that far. We have to be sustained in this movement for liberation. And we talked about this earlier, really define what liberation is. We've not seen it.
Yeah.
And so our organization is very intentional about the language that we use, and as a community trying to define what that looks like so that it's a tangible reality. We can't strive for something we've not seen and can't even imagine ourselves. Right. So all of that, what was just said and why it's important to be grounded and rooted.
Yeah.
I want to mention.
Go ahead, Carl. Then you can bring Carolyn.
Two of the three things that I feel that crucial. I'll mention one already: collaboration, and then also the second one is being able to pull resources together from each organization to create a lot, to get a lobbyist, to create lobbyists that can go down to Springfield and City Hall. And because again, when you're inexperienced, you're brand new, you don't know all these details. So to have an organization, there has to be a lobbyist organization that deal with not-for-profits. I don't think there is one. We tried to bring in some people to create one, and unfortunately, lobbyists can be a little expensive, and they want what they want, and they like, we're not going down here to raise you a bunch of money and we can't get anything in return from you or commitment from you. A lot of times their commitment to them is, where's the money up front for us to do these things? Right. It makes it difficult. And I hope to see that day. If that day comes when we try to organize it, we've been talking about it. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is we need the community. We talk about, you mentioned when I came in the door about the community has to show up and have all hands on deck. I believe just like how we see political PACs, people just pour money into these PACs to fund campaigns. We need to have a PAC in our community that funds non-for-profits. And that means all the people that call in the radio station, all the people that support you walking down these streets and say, we love you, we got you, keep doing the hard work. Well, here's a number. Make sure you donate to this PAC so that we can fund the work that we are doing and continue to do. So it to me, that's when people really stand up. Then the final thing is, which I just added, is that we've been trying to find organizations that when you come out your house and see plight, we've been trying to find organizations that a lot of people want to be more into the people, to the people part of it, which is fantastic. But we got to have people also in the substance part of it. That is, create non-for-profits that literally go around neighborhoods and clean up.
Yes.
I mean, really. And you can get funding for that from the city, from the state. When you just go around and just attack all our parts of town and just clean up the community where we won't do it, where we fail to do it, put it like that. And I think that's a niche for somebody if they're listening out there. Get it done.
Yes. Get it done. 773-591-1690. You guys, the phone lines are open. We have Carolyn Day on, Executive Director of Black United Fund. Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon, Chairman West.
What's up?
So I was listening, and I just want to drop in a few pearls. You know, one of the things we talk about at Black United Fund is that our motto is helping people help themselves, and it's important that people understand being fiscally compliant. We really are about accountability and mentoring other non-for-profits. And so one of the reasons that we are a federation of affiliates as well as fiscal agents is that we have agreed that we will model and mentor you through the process so that your organization is compliant, that you have all of your directors and officers insurance and things like that makes it pliable. It's just, as Tanisha said, it's just, culturally and socially responsible. I just had to get that out there.
Yeah, definitely.
She's a
go
numbers.
right ahead.
Carolyn is the numbers girl. She is the absolute numbers girl, and which is great for us.
Yeah,
and because we fortunate enough, because again, the business model that they created, that was prerequisite. Again, we 40 years in, so it's not like we just started yesterday. So we 40 years in.
Yeah, to Tanisha's point, being a younger organization, having the resources, number one, because you don't find a lot of NPOs whose mission is to mentor NPOs.
Right.
So they, younger NPOs, they don't know, the level of civic engagement that's going to be required to run this. They don't know the number of policy changes they can expect within an election year, within a fiscal year, within a, so how can that bridge be built between the younger NPOs and organizations such as yourselves, which, are what, 1 in 50, 1 in 100, 1 in, I don't even know the numbers, but there aren't many organizations that are willing to put that type of work into other NPOs.
Let me say that, then Curly can follow up on that. That's the reason it was important for her to come on the radio, come on the air, to make that proclamation.
Yes.
To let anyone that's listening that's in this space that's what we do. That's what we do. We help people help themselves, which is our slogan, as she mentioned. We try to go out as much as we can and talk to people so they can come to us so that we can help them fiscally remain in compliance in a startup or throughout their duration. So Carolyn can continue on that.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Right. So one of the things that we have to understand is, one, an organization cannot sustain itself on state and federal funds. And when we make applications for grant funders, we're telling the funder in the application that we're going to constantly be looking for additional sources to sustain a program if we're funded, but that we always are engaging with philanthropists. And those philanthropists might not look like your neighbors. You have to go outside of the community and bring resources back to the community. You've got to have an evaluation program. Like, what did you do with our money? What can we see that you've done with our money? Why do you need more money? Tell us your story, but then invite them to visit. So coming with your finances updated and everything in compliance is great, but you got to build relationships outside of the community to pour into the community.
And I'll open this up for Tanisha, and you can take this, any way you want, but we welcome you to come by and sit with Curlin. Curlin is a master because she's been in this business for
she's
been in this business for a long time.
No, I've been sitting here watching the wheels turn, and I said she has already made her appointment in her mind.
Curlin is not she goes up. She has relationships from her old organizations.
Yeah.
Curly goes up north to the North Shore with the little Jewish ladies, little old ladies, and they looking to give money out to do their civic responsibility or whatever.
Right.
They don't have anybody up there talking to them, telling them where to go. She filled that void by going up. She hosts a little teas with the little Jewish women, and she comes home with checks, $100,000 for checks.
Wow.
Because they just looking to give, but they don't have nobody coming up there asking them what to give, who to give to.
Right.
And she figured that out a long time ago in her relationships with certain organizations in her past. That's what she does. Come up, meet with Curly, go up there and host a tea with her sometime.
Yes.
With her little Jewish little old white girls up north, and come home with something to give to your community. And then sometimes the relationship we built with them, she's built with them over the years. If there's ever a time when we need some extra funds for one of our affiliates, we just call them, say, hey, somebody's in trouble. Can you send them a check for $10,000? And those little people, they send it. They send it. But you got to have the relationship right outside of the community and outside of what Curlin said with the government, with the state, because it is a bigger world than that. And then again, they have so many stipulations. Right. So Tanisha.
Yeah, I definitely co-sign all of that. I've been blessed to do work at the national and local level. So I've been, able to receive support from national organizations and organizations here in Chicago. And I literally had a conversation with my executive coach. Today is Saturday, Thursday, about, again, I want to show up radical in all the ways, pro-Black in all the ways, representative of Black, right? But a conversation even about diversifying my board, so being strategic about how we acquire the support is important, especially for an organization like mine where we're working with middle school students. So the quote unquote impact of the work may not show up for years down the line where, you have some funders that want to see immediate outcomes. Right. And I'm like, we're really playing the long game. Yeah. And so how to translate that impact, what it looks like in the future, what the vision is, but the relationships are critically important. And again, how to be strategic in the relationship and focus inward on who you are, right? Right. It's not about compromising, but it's about balance.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
again, where I'm like, I want a Black board, I want this and all that. And it's like we have allies that don't look like us that are willing to support our work. Yes. So again, you have to be creative, you have to be open-minded, you have to be willing to grow all the things to support.
And sometimes compromises come with that.
Yep. That
right. You have to measure what that is. Does it fit your standard or your model, who you are as a person? But you have to at least look at it.
Right. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
So I was going to say, we've had a lot of affiliate organizations that we inherited. And so they only did business with Buffy, and understanding that we're non-for-profit. You're not supposed to make a profit. You're supposed to be giving out. You're supposed to end up with doing the work of your mission. But as a result of that, we've fostered relationships with banking institutions where these organizations that's been around for a while. Now they have a line of credit. So they don't have to come back and ask Buffy for funds. They're carrying on with the promise that they're going to mentor another organization, particularly our organizations that have checkered backgrounds and people have had different life experience paths, that the challenges are, before them. But it can happen. We just have to take responsibility of each other and make it happen and continue to grow. Also, as you make these personal relationships with folks with disposable income, you have to maintain those relationships. It's not a one and done and, oh, I'm back again. I only see you when I'm begging. You need to go up and say, this is what we're doing in our communities. This is what's happening. And this is the model we want to create,
Yeah, we'll take them a cake. They ain't never had no caramel cake from Brown Sugar Bakery, right?
Right. There we go.
And they'd be like, that's worth gold. It's worth gold.
Yes. And it's about spending time. I know we're in technology and all that, but there are some groups that really just want hands-on time. And mentoring sometimes requires that. You've got to invest in the time.
Carolyn, let me ask you, do you see a difference in the ask from civic facing NPOs versus faith-based NPOs versus organizational NPOs when it comes to that funding structure?
I do. I think that faith-based organizations and volunteer organizations get a lot of support because their operations cost isn't as high, because they have a lot of volunteers volunteering those hours. And then whomever is doing your books, they can translate those volunteer hours over to, I forgot the correct word, but it's like if you have a certain number of hours of volunteers for your organization, when you do your taxes, it translates over to some kind of money. I'm not like that person exactly, but those out there know what I'm talking about. So that's already saying that you have evidence of people supporting you hands-on every day for free.
Yeah.
So as opposed to a startup that has nothing, I need everything. So yeah, I've seen a difference in the funding streams, but you got to be relentant, and people can understand and hear your passion. And you can be passionate, but you've got to get your people, have a good team too. We're really happy to have Victor Henderson at Cochran and Associates to, stick with us through thick and thin. We have a wonderful accounting, forensic auditor. So we have a great team that we've kind of inherited. And so now it's on us because we're like the new young middle age. So the older folks are passing it to us. And so we've got to connect with the philanthropists' children and family, because they were like, that's my mom and dad's thing. I don't know, y'all.
Right.
We on to something else.
Go ahead, Tanisha.
And I just wanted to chime in, and I'm not trying to shift the conversation, but it's, along the same lines of support. This community support is absolutely critical. And I think we need to have some very real conversations within our community about the lack of accountability that we're taking these days. I think there were 2 teen takeovers this week, right?
Yeah.
People like the parents this, the parents that. And again, going back to this village concept, if you were outside cutting up and your mama wasn't around, Miss Cora down the street got you together. So
immediately.
And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about, again, our everyday work where we're trying to get parents to show up is difficult. We're trying to get people to show up as mentors is difficult. We're having a gala on May 1st. Our tickets are $75. I'm gonna be very transparent. It's hard selling these tickets for $75.
Curlin, we got 5, right?
Right.
There you go. Look at that. Look at God. Look at God. Look at God.
And we spend I'll spend $75 a week on Uber Eats. It's like when we think about what we prioritize, we complain, but we're not doing anything about the issues that we see, and we prioritize some things. And I'm not trying to call out. This is a calling in and being real.
Absolutely.
Right? Our priorities are not together. Our accountability is not together. And if we really want to see the change that everybody's talking about, they want to see, we got to step up and we got to be that support. So where we get the dollars from the philanthropists, the millionaires, the billionaires, and all the things, the support and the investment from the community is just as important. We need y'all.
All hands on deck. All hands on deck. So when you when you call to go see Curlin next week, make sure you bring the invoice for the 5 tickets, and she'll cover that for you. And then we'll be there to support that. It's funny you had mentioned that. You mentioned that because I've literally been in the conversations with the mayor for the last year, ever since the last year's teen takeover last summer. And I just had a chance to whisper this in his ear yesterday about that. I have been trying to push a citywide mentor initiative that does just that. So, and I was explaining to him here's how it is. All these people that say they love you, they support you, all hands on deck, right? So when we hear about a teen takeover happening somewhere, you got to be sending a text message out to all the able-bodied men and women in this city who cares enough, go down there and meet them kids where they at, and let's figure out what's going on and how we can diffuse. If anything is going to happen, let's diffuse it.
Right.
And if you want to come down and have a good time and just hang out, let's do that. We got to have all hands on deck. Like I said, you put together 100, 200 group of men and women, adult men and women responsible, put them on a text thread for something like that. A teen takeout is happening tomorrow. Hit that button, hit that text. I need y'all to get down here so we can at least be present.
Right.
We can be present.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
And addressing again. So there's a short-term approach, right? That we got to do that, and a long-term approach which is understanding why these things are happening.
Yep.
Why are our kids going en masse to different parts? Because I've had 2 teen takeovers in my block. I live in West Pullman, predominantly block full of older people, not too many kids, but we've had 2 teen takeovers. Why are these things happening? I hear this conversation. I was on the bandwagon. We need more safe spaces.
Right.
Understood. We have some, maybe not enough. Are kids utilizing them? Maybe not.
Right.
But is that something, what are our young people interested in? Even thinking about how they're being hardwired with sex, drugs, and rock and roll through media, music, all these things. So getting to the root of what oppression and assimilation and indoctrination, all those things look like, and how those are manifesting in the behaviors and the attitude and emotional state of our young people, and why we see what we're seeing. So yes, 2 parts. We got to stop this thing in this track, but we got to address the issues.
Yep. Susan, I see you on the line. Let's talk to Susan real quick. Susan, welcome to WVON.
Thank you. I'll be super fast. Great program. Really enjoying it. Carl, I think that is an absolutely positively excellent suggestion to have all the adults lined up and ready to go. And then there's some accountability and kind of like, oh, wait, what are they doing here? Oh, we better not do this thing. We could do that thing. I think that would be wonderful, because that's what I think is missing anyway, is the lack of adult guidance and presence. But the other thing I was trying to say yesterday on the program is parenting classes. I think the ones that have the biggest problem, the parents should be going to classes, because that's an easy, clear disconnect somewhere that happened between the parent and the child, for the child to while out. And it's like, what are you teaching him? What do you know? What do you understand about what you need to teach him? That's it for me.
Responsibility it definitely starts at the bottom and the top and all the way in the middle. So there should be responsible adults somewhere in these kids' life, at the top, middle, and the bottom, always.
Yep. Thank you guys so much. We are about to wrap up, but I do want to mention something really quick. Can
I quickly offer something to Tanisha?
Okay, you got like 10 seconds.
Okay, Tanisha, make sure that you're keeping aware of a fundraiser versus a good party. That's all I'm saying. That's all I want to say.
That's a whole sermon, Carolyn. That is an entire sermon right there.
Out to you ASAP.
Yeah, she's going to reach out to you. She's going to reach out to you immediately. Tanisha, you are participating in Fast Pitch on April 15th.
I am.
All right. We're going to be praying for you and supporting you in that. Please keep us posted. Thank you so much to Tanisha Peoples with the Roots Initiative. Carl West, as always, thank you so much. And Carolyn Day from Black United Fund of Illinois. This has been Meeting the Moment. We will see you next Saturday at 12 p.m. Like and share the show, guys.